This program airs statewide on California Public Television and is a California's Gold classic. It's been a part of the California landscape since it first opened on July the 26th, 1880. Built entirely by hand with huge blocks of granite quarried right on the property itself, these gray buildings have, over the years, housed some of our state's toughest characters. It's a place filled with stories, with myths and legends. And today, its walls and watchtowers still stand guard over one of the most famous prisons in the world. Folsom Prison was built on 1,000 acres of land, located about 22 miles east of Sacramento, near the town of Folsom. And driving up that long road to the prison complex, we had no idea what to expect. But we were eager to see firsthand this historic old prison. We were met at the front gate by the guys who were going to take us around. But before we could even enter the outer perimeter, we had to sign in, get a gate pass. Then we were taken just a few yards inside that outer perimeter to the Folsom Prison Museum, which is packed with all kinds of prison memorabilia, including an old Gatling gun which was used on one of the old guard towers, display cases filled with handcuffs and leg irons, old prison mugshot books from the very earliest days, and there was even a giant wooden model Ferris wheel on display that had been made by one of the prisoners years ago who had lots of time on his hands. Now you're going to be with us part of the day and you're going to break off from the tour right now.
Yes, sir.
You're going to be with us all day.
Yes, sir.
Now you have probably got more stories than anybody because you've been here longer.
I moved in here when I was 3 years old, worked here 27 years.
Wow.
This place is my life.
When you first look at it, it looks like an old prison should look from the outside.
It's called the Old Castle, which it resembles that because of the rock.
Look at this original. This is all original stuff.
Yes, it is. Wow. Hand carved.
This big lantern here is from what year?
I'd say probably the late 1800s.
Wow, that is beautiful.
And moved on there.
And they call this the castle?
The Old Castle.
I'm sure the inmates have another term for it, though, don't they?
We can't say that on television.
Okay, so we're going up over the door. It says the initials are...
Folsom State Prison, FSP.
And what are we going to have to do, Dave?
Well, Huell, we're going to go right inside the prison. We're going to have to process in. You're going to have to sign in and get a stamp on your hand, and then you're going to go through a metal detector. And basically, the signing in is accountability. We want to know exactly who is inside the institution at any given moment. And then going through the metal detector is to control any contraband flow that's going in.
So it's just as hard to get in, almost as hard to get in as it is to get out.
We have real strict security measures, you bet.
Okay, we're ready to go in. This is a new, boy, this is a serious door right here.
Now, to a lot of inmates, this was the last sound they heard of freedom, this door slamming behind them.
Yep, that's the sound of a door closing, all right. Now where do we go?
Okay, Huell, this is, I need to stamp your hand to make sure, and this is with the ultraviolet ink that only shows up under ultraviolet light.
You've got two stamps
here. I've got
here.
2 stamps, right. I got an inmate stamp and a visitor stamp. Which one do you want?
I'd rather have the visitor stamp.
All right. And
I'm sure everyone who comes through here would rather have the visitor stamp.
I need to stamp your left hand.
Okay.
And now, when we walk out, they're going to put you under ultraviolet light. And what we tell people is if you don't glow, you don't go.
Well, we're glowing and we're going. Let's go. What's next?
Now we get to go through the metal detector. Now this is not like an airport. This is very sensitive. It's going to pick up your belt. It's going to pick up your glasses. It's going to pick up your watch. Your driver's license, you have a little strip on there. That won't clear it. So what you're going to have to do is put everything on the table here, including taking off your boots, and we'll get you processed.
My boots? Why the boots?
Well, we got to make sure that you're not smuggling anything inside the institution, inside your boots. So I'm going to have to look at the inside and underneath.
I don't think we're ever going to get inside. Louis, cut the camera, and I'm going to strip down and go through the metal detector. I know this is necessary, isn't it?
That's it. We
Security. Okay, here we go. We're out. Or we're in. Well, we finally made it inside. And as we walked around, there was a lot to see right away. Like the original number 13 guard tower, which at one time contained 7 solitary confinement cells in the bottom. And there was also the original prison powerhouse, which contained 6 giant turbines which made all the electricity for the prison. We also saw the old B-29 hangar building, which was the site of the prison's first license plate factory back in 1940. In fact, Folsom Prison still makes all our license plates. We also discovered this was the site of the famous Folsom Rock Quarry.
This whole area that you see, that's all dug out, this was the quarry.
Right down here.
All the way around. Where the power plant was, you can see this whole area that was all dug out. And then you see this wall over here, the granite wall that was just kind of pieced up. The quarry actually went all the way into where the main yard is now. They backfilled that and put up these retaining walls made out of granite.
So this was the quarry.
This was the
where
whole quarry.
all of this stone that built the prison came from.
Correct.
So they dug out the whole side of this mountain here.
Yeah, basically, much of it was all dug out by hand. The inmates had with one hand they're using their hammer to hit down the spikes to cut the granite and then splitting it apart. And when you look at this building here, if you can take a look at the corners, look at the windows, look at the actual work that was involved in this. And every block in this whole building was all cut by hand. So everything was chiseled out.
So the prisoners really did some pretty good work here.
Oh, they made little rocks out of big rocks, and they took a lot of time and did a lot of detail in doing it.
Well, I guess the time was the one thing they had, wasn't it?
That's it. A lot
to
of
do
time.
a good job.
And I bet you they felt a little bit of self-esteem out of doing a good job too, because you look at the work, the craftsmanship that was involved, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Another thing we noticed as our tour continued were all the beautiful flower beds and plants all around the prison grounds, cultivated by the inmates themselves, which we discovered was also part of a continuing Folsom Prison tradition.
On our right here is what is commonly known as China Hill.
China Hill.
It's been known that way back to the late 1800s as the warden's residence had Chinese cooks. They grew their own vegetables on China Hill, harvested them, and prepared them for the warden and his family.
So you've still got the bridge here, the little Chinese bridge?
Well, they've added a lot of things here, but they're doing it again in the kind of a way of a tradition and keeping the name of China Hill.
Look at the size of this.
Oh, yes.
What did they grow here?
All the various vegetables and tomatoes and vegetables, even potatoes, the whole works that a person would need for a big family meal. Everything that could be grown here was grown and tended by the Chinese cooks.
Now, is this considered a prime job to work?
Well, essentially this is a job that the inmates enjoy because they get to come out here and they get to grow things.
Let's walk up here.
And a lot of them have never grown things, and they're actually doing something for the community too, because just this week we donated 450 pounds of vegetables to a senior citizen group. So, they get some self-satisfaction.
Look at this terracing going up here.
Yeah, a lot
Now,
of...
is this all original?
I'd say that was original, and the Chinese cooks used to live. They had quarters up here, and they lived right up here.
Now, what are you fellas doing up here with this big rock?
Well, what we're doing right here is we're making a table, and we're going to put in some seats around it, and then we're going to try and build a plot on the sides of it, maybe to get some shade or something, you know, for when it's a little hot for lunchtime.
So this rock has always been here.
Yeah,
How did you find it?
But, well, we were going to plant some stuff here, and we ran into it, and we couldn't do that, so we're making the best use out of it that we can.
Now, do you know the history behind China Hill?
No, not really.
Because, you know, there have been guys working on this hill since this prison opened over 100 years ago.
Yes, I've heard about it.
You know about it?
Well, from what I've heard is that they said that the Chinese in the old days, they built this place. That's how they built the dam. They blew it up. And that's how they used most of these rocks. And they built building number 5 out of the boulders of the rocks. And this is why, being that the Chinese used to camp out here. And of course, in the daytime, they go down there and build the prison itself. And that's why they call it China Hill.
So see, the inmates know about, you know about this as well.
Well, somewhat, yeah.
How did you hear about it?
Through the officers and words.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's not easy work, but it's interesting work,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Had you ever worked with rock before?
No, never till I got here. Might say it's trade.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
good
but,
luck.
Sure.
Boy, this is a view here.
It's quite a panoramic groove, all right?
This is something.
Yep.
And look at the work done here.
Hand cut.
This is not easy work here.
No, that's hand cut. As a matter of fact, between Folsom and Lake Tahoe, the mileage markers on the road were made here at Folsom.
Really?
You'll see those if you go up Highway 50. They were made right here, hand cut.
This is about as good a view of the old. Now there's the new prison over there, right?
That's correct.
So it's all kind of built here together, the old and the new.
Where the old and the new come together. 100-year difference in penology right there.
Good morning. We're all good people. Here's my ID right here.
All right. You have your picture and your gate pass.
Oh boy.
Make sure we know who's going in and out.
You don't let anybody slide through here, do you?
Try not to.
Here's my picture.
All right.
Here's my, oh boy, have I still got my gate pass?
There it is.
Here's my gate pass.
Thank you.
And I can vouch for the cameraman.
I see.
There's his picture.
I see right there.
You're not going to let him slide
we can
through.
see. As long as we can see the picture, he's good to go.
He looks kind of suspicious, I know, but he's a good man.
Yeah, I know that guy. He was back here in 1972, wasn't he?
Don't joke about stuff like that. All right, we're going through. Come on, Louis. I guess there are a lot of prison jokes, aren't there?
All the time, you know, and just like, you know, the staff are interacting with the inmates on a regular basis, and you got to be a little bit lighthearted.
Now here's another gate.
Now watch what's going to happen here. They're still processing, you know, people in, and he's going to close this door before he opens this door. So he's got us completely isolated.
All right, so that door is closed. So Louis, now they've opened this door.
So this door opens.
So they
up.
never have
They
both
won't
doors
have both
open at the
doors
same
open at
time.
the same time.
Now we're in
This is the inner perimeter of the
inner
institution.
perimeter.
The interesting thing about this hill is this is a retaining wall that was built by the inmates here at Folsom Prison, and somewhere around 1992-93, and it's a real good job. And then you look over here, and this is a granite wall that was put up by inmates over 100 years ago, you know, right next to each other.
So the tradition of working with stone, is this from around here, this stone?
Well, this is part of vocational masonry. I'm not sure if you know, I think it's just concrete that was poured and put together, so I don't know.
But they're
actually where-
still making walls here.
Correct.
There seems to be a theme of walls here.
Now, what we're gonna go up through here. This is going towards the main yard of the institution.
Uh-huh.
And if you look around, you can see the vocational landscape program here at work.
Now this is what I think of when I think, you know, we've seen this in movies, this open prison yard out in the middle. Has this always traditionally been here, been a part of the prison?
Well, the prison is something that developed over a number of years. They had a building over here, and then they built another building there and another building, and then they tore some buildings down and kind of built this inner perimeter here, and then they went in and were able to build the yard. But this has always been an area that is within the inmate population, and even for people outside the institution, this was an area where a lot of social gatherings were done here. They had 4th of July picnics here. A lot of different things have been done here.
Boxing matches, sporting events.
Correct, and John, probably remembers those events real well.
Can you remember, John, what went on out here?
Oh yeah, they every 4th of July they had a program, races, various events and shows, and costumes and so forth. It was quite a thing.
Another inspection post.
Well, this is for inmates, so we can pass through without without
So
any
we can go
problem.
right through this one. Now, can we go out where?
Well, what we're going to do is go up here into the chapel, so you
Okay.
can get a look at that.
Into the chapel.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
Oh, we got a key. We're gonna get in. They're working in here.
Yeah, they're putting a new floor down.
We're redoing the floor.
You're redoing the floor? Now we're inside, and we've run into, actually, you're one of the inmates here.
Yes, I am. My name's Sam Bassett.
You work here in the chapel?
Yes, I do. I'm the Catholic chaplain's clerk.
Okay, now you would know, we've been told that this is a very famous painting up here.
Well, I don't know my own personal knowledge. I wasn't here when it was painted, but it was painted about 1938 by an inmate on the wall. It's on stucco. They put stucco up, and he painted on the wet stucco, just like Leonardo did originally. That's about as much as I know about it.
Can you fill in the holes here?
Yes, that was painted by an inmate by the name of Ralph Pecor, and every face you see up there of the disciples is the face of a murderer who was doing time in Folsom at the time.
Really?
So that's an interesting aspect of that.
Had you heard that?
No, I had not. That's news to me.
See, there are a lot of these stories around, aren't there?
This is a factual story. We have photographs in the museum of him painting this.
So is this part of the lore of Folsom Prison
It's
as
part of
well?
the Folsom history. Yes, it certainly is.
Wow. Now this says #1 building here.
That's it. That's one building.
So was this the original?
No, and I have not figured out how they numbered the buildings. The original building is number 5, and that's where we're going to be heading to, so you can see the how that was built. But one building was maybe the second building or the third building that was built here.
Well, that makes sense.
The granite is real distinctive too. The Folsom granite is real dark gray versus other granite that was quarried over in Rockland and other areas around here. Some of it has speckles in it, different textures to it, so you can tell Folsom granite. And it kind of fits in with the prison, it's just that gray look.
Yeah.
So we're walking into, this is the Sally Port leading into 5 building now.
And this is the oldest building at Folsom.
Correct. This is our original cell block.
Okay, we're heading in to the 5 building. Okay, we're going in again.
You can see this is Unit 5, and this is, we got the granite. A lot of years of paint on these walls,
Oh, look. So these are the original cell block.
These are the original cell blocks.
Boy, you really get a sense of the size of the granite, the
Yeah,
block.
It's huge. Some of the granite pieces are just huge. Okay, let's go ahead down here.
look.
You can get a feel for it. Now the cell blocks, or the actual cells, these doors are still the original doors. And when they originally put them on, all they had was a little slot in them. Because they weren't getting enough ventilation, they had to come back and drill the holes.
Now this is what you were talking about. This roof has been added. When this was built in the 1800s, this was all open to the elements.
Correct. Yeah, they just dealt with the sun and the rain, and it didn't have the concrete floors either. So this was mud and dust.
The governor dedicated this building in 1878, and it was 2 years later that inmates moved in.
As an open air cell block.
That's correct. Just the outer wall and no roof.
And this is all original here.
That's right.
These are the original doors.
That's correct.
Very labor intensive here too. You can see how they had to lock them up. We put on the Folger Adams locks later on.
Wow. This is amazing. And you say there was no concrete here, so what kind of floors did they have?
Just the dirt.
It was dirt floors.
Dirt floor.
Yeah, just the dirt.
And of course, with no plumbing, they had a big hole with running water that the slop buckets were put in.
That ran through the...
They had a line of people that emptied the buckets every day.
Yeah,
two buckets, one for drinking, one for toilet facilities.
And you can imagine back then the first thing they did in the morning was they had to take their bucket that they did their thing in all night, and they stepped out, and in a single file line they had to walk over to the trough, empty the bucket out, and then come back to the cell and put their buckets back. Then they could go to breakfast. And you look at the cells, if you can imagine those without even the air holes and the heat and everything that was the dust and the humidity and all that, and then to have that bucket in there with a little lid on the top, probably wasn't the most luxurious quarters back in the old days.
Now, is this facility just as solid today as it was when it was built 100 years ago?
Yes, there's nobody going to get out of here. You can see the light down here. It's shining through one of the bullet holes in the ceiling. Over the last 100 years or 115 years, this has been one of the most violent institutions in the United States.
So there are bullet holes all in the ceiling.
Correct. There's bullet holes in here, and as we go through the other housing units, I'll point them out there also. But they're throughout the institution.
Gosh, see, everything here has a story. I thought that was just a piece of light there.
That's the light shining right through one of our warning shots.
I want to take you into the restricted area where the execution chamber where they used to hang them, and the holding cells for that, and you get an idea what that looks like.
Okay. No, go ahead.
All right. This was 2 tiers of cells. I believe there's 9 cells in here. They're evidently used for storage now, but I think we can look in here and get an idea. Now that's the size of the cell.
Let's go in. Oh, wow, you really get a sense of how small this thing was.
That's correct. And of course, there was no bed in here. There was a mattress on the floor and the bucket that we told you about. And of course, water was hauled in by wagon in the early days here. So this all fit in the same way that it is in the way you see it right now. These air vents were added later on, but at that time there was no air vents. But this was actually the holding cells prior to execution, and they were hung. And I believe I can show you out here.
So wait a minute, let me get it clear. There were no toilet facilities.
None whatsoever.
There was a straw mattress on the floor.
That's correct.
There was no air circulating in here. This was put in later.
That's correct.
There was no, obviously, electricity in here. How did they get light?
Candles. They were issued a candle once a month, and they had to use it down to a fraction in order to make it last.
That was their heat, too.
That was also
their heat.
A candle.
A candle.
And this is where the men, this was death row in the 1800s.
This was death row, that's correct.
And then they would be brought
Up there was a bar across, and they were hung from the rope there.
Well, now we've come about a mile from the old prison. We've hooked back up again with Tom, and Tom, you've brought us up to this rather scenic spot here, looking out over Folsom Lake, to show us something that most people don't even know exists.
Well, what we have here is down at the base of this dike here for the new Folsom Dam was the original cemetery for Folsom Prison. Using the practice of the time, they put the cemetery in the most worthless land in the institution. Unfortunately, in the flood of 1896, the cemetery washed out and the coffins floated down to the city of Folsom. They were returned from the city, and the graveyard was moved higher up the hill and reestablished. And there was another flood in 1912, which once again washed out the cemetery. Once again, the bodies were returned from the city of Folsom and brought up here to this cemetery where we are right now, which is
this is the
third cemetery in Folsom's history here.
Now tell us about the history of this. This is fascinating to me.
Yeah, what we have is basically the 93 inmates that we executed here by hanging are all buried in here. We have a total of approximately 650 inmates in this cemetery total. In as much as the stones and whatnot went, if you look around, you see the various stones. The people had opportunity. If you were on death row and you wanted a stone with your name and number on it, such as like this one here and that one there, you could carve your own stone if you desired. If you didn't desire to carve your own stone, but you had a friend, they could carve it for you. And if you had no friends, you ended up with a wooden marker, as we have down below here.
So there are a lot of wooden markers down here from people who literally, when they died, had no friends at all.
None whatsoever.
Now, who is buried here? Just prisoners?
This is just prisoners. Up until the early 1950s, all the prisoners that died here stayed here. We have records of only one prisoner that was released in the previous 100 years, and he was returned to his family in Shingle Springs.
You mean even after a prisoner dies here, they have to stay here in death?
That was the rule at the time.
Wow. That seems like a strange rule.
Well, the laws of the land were quite a bit different then than they are now. Life at that time meant life and death. There was no way out.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Hauser, and I sure hope you enjoyed this adventure. If you'd like to see it again or share it with your family or friends, all you have to do is call 1-800-266-5727, and we'll be glad to send it to you right away.